Hello children, this is Mrs. A and I love math. And today we're doing lesson 38, rate word problems. And I love word problems. And I think rates are very interesting also because there's two ways that you can write a rate. So if I wanted to say that 20 apples cost $5, then I could either write 20 apples over $5, or I could write $5 over 20 apples. They are both correct rates. Now, the trick is, what is the question? Okay, how many apples for $80? If I want to know how many apples, if I want apples to come out as the answer, then I want to get rid of dollars and have apples on the top. So I'm going to take this rate, and this answer being apples told me that I want apples on the top. I want dollars to cancel. So I will put 20 apples on the top, and I will put $5 on the bottom. Okay, and now I have one number in my problem. How many apples for $80? So I start with $80, and I'm going to multiply by the rate in this form, because this form is going to cancel dollars with dollars. I don't want dollars in my answer. It's going to have apples on the top, so apples will be in my answer. And then all I have to do is do this math. I could multiply 80 times 20 and then divide by 5, or I could say, you know what, 20 and 5 will simplify. 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 80 times 4 would be 320 apples. What on earth would you do with 320 apples? That's a lot of apples, and unless you have a lot of children eating that many apples, you're going to have some apples go bad. And we don't need any bad apples. So hopefully they had a lot of children to spend that $80 on apples. Here's our last example. This was a short lesson, wasn't it? Then we'll do some practice problems. All right, so notice they're using the same rate in example 2. 20 apples cost $5, but now they're asking a different question. What is the cost of 40 apples? So we're looking at 40 apples. Here's our 40 apples going into the problem. This is for our rate. And then we're supposed to get out the cost. Well, the cost should be in dollars, right? So we need dollars out. That means we need dollars on the top, and we're trying to get rid of apples. We don't want apples in our answer. We want dollars in our answer. So we want apples to cancel. So we're going to use the same rate, but now it's flipped over from what it was in the last example. The 20 apples goes on the bottom, and the $5 goes on the top, and we have 40 going in, 40 apples going in. Here's our rate. And now apples will cancel apples, and we're left with dollars, which is what we wanted. And here's our little road map of what's going to go on. 40 times 5 divided by 20, or if we're smart, we're going to say 5 over 20 simplifies to 1/4, and 1/4 times 40 is the same thing as 40 divided by 4. Right? Because 1/4 times 40 is 40 over 4, which is just 10. Okay, so 40 divided by 4, $10 is the answer. So now let's do our practices. Okay, so here is our practice problem. So we have chestnuts cost 40 cents per 2 ounces, or for 2 ounces. So we could write this rate as 40 cents over 2 ounces, or 2 ounces over 40 cents. Okay, so then it says, how many ounces can Joan buy for $1.20? Okay, so in our little word question here, this question is going to determine whether we use the rate on the left or the rate on the right. How many ounces? So we want ounces out, which means in our rate, we want ounces on top. Okay, so we want ounces out, and that means we want ounces on the top of our rate. So now we want this one, right? We want 2 ounces over 40 cents. And then we have going into our problem $1.20. So now we have just one more thing that we've got to worry about. Notice that this is in dollars and this is in cents. I need to change one or the other, okay? And it really doesn't matter which one I change because my answer doesn't have either one of them in there, okay? So since my rate was in cents, what if we took this $1.20 and thought, how many cents is $1.20? And $1.20 is 120 cents. So let's take off the dollar and make this 120 cents, because when we use our unit multipliers, we must have the same units, right? Because we want cents to cancel cents. And now they will, because we changed the dollars into cents. Always make sure that you have the same units. So now we're ready to do our problem. 120 times 2, and then all of that divided by 40, or we could say, well, 2 over 40 is the same as 1 over 20. And 120 divided by a 20 is going to be a 6. So we can buy 6 ounces. Now, does that make sense? Let's go back, right? We had 40 cents for 2 ounces, and 120 cents is 3 times the 40 cents. So doesn't it make sense that the number of ounces that we could get out is 3 times the 2 ounces? If we multiplied the cents by 3, shouldn't we be able to get 3 times as many ounces? And 6 is 3 times as much as 2. So notice ounces was on top. We came out with ounces. Cents were on the bottom because we changed the dollars into cents. And now we're going to come back with our very last practice. Okay, this is your last practice. Copy it down and pause your video. All right, now let's notice. This part of the board did not change at all. The only thing that changed was the question. So we want to change what comes out of the problem, and now we have a different input. Now the input into the problem is 50 ounces. Okay, it's going into the problem, and then we're going to multiply by a rate. And out of the problem, we want cost. So I'm just going to write cost down at the bottom, but we know that cost is going to be in cents or dollars. Okay, so what we'll do, I think, is since this is in cents, let's do the problem in cents, and then we'll see if maybe at the end it's appropriate to turn it into dollars. Okay, so we'll do it in cents, and then we'll see which form we want to leave that into. Okay, so now we have 50 ounces, and it's going in, and we're looking out for cost. Since we want cost out, we want cost on the top of the unit multiplier. So we want this one, 40 cents over 2 ounces. Okay, so now our ounces cancel ounces, and 50 times 40, all divided by 2, but 40 divided by 2 is 20, and 50 times 20 is easy because they each have a 0 on the end. So 5 times 2 is 10, and then we tack on 2 zeros. So 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay, 5. Remember, this is 20. 5 times 2 is 10, and then we tack on the 2 extra zeros. So now we have 1,000 cents. I think that's big enough to put 1,000 cents into dollars, don't you? Because remember, 100 cents is $1. So let's take our cents and put it into $10. And that's the same thing as 1,000 cents. So we put a decimal, and that decimal we divide by 100 because there are 100 cents in $1. So we move the decimal 2 places over. $10 is the same thing as 1,000 cents. And when we get into big numbers, we don't talk about cents, right? We only really talk about cents when we have small numbers. Then we go to dollars. All right, we are done with that lesson on rate word problems, and we've done all of our practices and all of our examples. So now it's up to you to go and do your homework. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.